My boyfriend has a disrespectful friend who he won't stop being friends with, and I'm not sure where to go from here. Thank you all for your honesty and at times, hard-hitting, feedback. I'm glad to know I'm not crazy. I will be having a very difficult and very necessary conversation with him in the morning, and we will have to go about figuring out how to get on with our separate lives. For starters, I am on a throwaway account posting from mobile. I don't really know what this means for non-mobile users, as I've never actually used Reddit from a device other than mobile, but I see that disclaimer a lot, so yeah. Sorry in advance for any potential typos, formatting issues, and whatever else sucks about my post. Also posted and just looking for more feedback and potential solutions, please. Now for the info. There's a lot, so please bear with me. My boyfriend has a friend we'll call used to work for him, got fired, and even after being fired they maintained a cordial relationship, but only really started hanging out and being actual friends around the time he and I started dating around 2 years ago. It was mostly a couple's thing, or him going to hang with her and her boyfriend for drinks. I don't really drink, so not my idea of a good time. He would also confide in her, and her boyfriend, and later just her, about me and our relationship when we'd have rough patches and vice versa. Honestly, right off the bat I didn't get good vibes from her. She seemed jealous of his and my relationship. She would comment on how she's never seen that side of him, loving and affectionate, over and over. Like annoyingly incessant. She would tell him how much her boyfriend reminded her of him. She would flirt with him in my presence and, of course, not in my presence. She obviously had a crush on him, and I told him as much. At first he didn't believe me and eventually realized and told me I was right. I felt that her flirting and all, especially in my face, was disrespectful, though not a make or break issue at the time, as I'm not a jealous person and I'm aware he's desirable. Perhaps it's subconscious for her. The real issue came about when she tried to sleep with my boyfriend. She literally propositioned him to sleep in her bed with her with the intention of having sex. She admitted to this. He told me about it and I didn't freak out, but I did say that I didn't think that him remaining friends with her was appropriate. He made an excuse for her that she was distraught and not thinking clearly, since her boyfriend was just sentenced to 3 years in jail and she was reacting emotionally. The proposition came about because she called him and told him she was lonely and wasn't used to sleeping alone. She asked if he could come over and stay the night with her in her bed. He asked me if he could be there for a friend. My response was calm, but in my head I'm like, WTF, no. Like, who asks someone who's in a monogamous relationship with someone else to do that? But, again, I didn't freak out. I told him he could be there for her only if we both could go, and when he relayed that to her she all of a sudden wasn't lonely anymore. I told him it was because she had dubious intentions, but he said he wasn't sure. She later revealed to him that she uses sex to cope, and effectively that she'd hoped they would have sex. Even after that I honestly still tried to be understanding and even tried to be friends, or at least friendly, with her and help her through what she was going through with her boyfriend if I could, but I also expressed my staunch displeasure with her and the situation, and he supposedly put her in her place. After the proposition there were a couple of other instances that I felt crossed the line, and that she had a pattern of disrespecting me and our relationship, to the point where I told my boyfriend that he didn't have to stop being friends with her, but if she was going to be around I just couldn't be with him anymore. I don't do well at all with disrespect, and I felt that him allowing her to maintain a presence in his life was him being complicit in the disrespectful behavior. This led to him telling me that he told her he couldn't be friends with her anymore and that she was out of his life for good. Now I wouldn't be here if that were true. Obviously. What actually happened was that he instead just started lying to me. He was going behind my back telling me he was going to the bar after work and he was actually stopping by her house for drinks and conversation. This had been going on for a while, but I just found out because he told me he was at a particular bar that I hadn't heard of, but he said it in a way that I should know what it was. The name was intriguing, and when I looked it up I found out it was completely closed on the day he said he was there. I confronted him and he came clean. He said he lied and continued being friends with her because he feels I shouldn't dictate who he can and can't be friends with. I told him I'm not saying that he can't have her as a friend, but that by being friends with her I feel that he doesn't have my back and I don't wish to continue forward because it will only cause conflict that I do not want. He thinks I'm being unreasonable and controlling. I feel he's essentially choosing her over me as he's prepared to let me walk away instead of dictating who he can and can't be friends with, his words, not mine. He said he wants to find a middle ground and compromise where we can both be happy. I suggested him being friendly with her but not friends. Cordial when they run into each other as they have a similar social circle but not hanging out or even speaking intentionally. Especially not alone at her house. He feels that's me getting what I want. What I really want is for her not to exist in either of our lives at all. I asked him what his proposed solution was and he has none so far. I also want to add I never asked him not to be friends or hang with anyone else no matter how unsavory I might find them to be. I don't have to like who he likes or be friends with his friends, but I do draw a line at disrespect. I feel this is a universal principle and would never continue a relationship with anyone who disrespected him either. He says it wasn't disrespectful as nothing happened and nothing ever will happen, and he shut down her advances and he wishes I would just let it go. I feel I gave a good effort of letting it go and giving her the benefit of the doubt, but her continued behaviors are not something I can turn a blind eye to. I love him dearly and sincerely don't want the relationship to end. I consider him to be my best friend. He says I am his best friend as well, though I do not feel he's being a very good friend or partner to me right now. I'm feeling extremely conflicted and not sure how to proceed. What say you, Reddit? What are your thoughts on the situation and advice on how to proceed? Can any of you think of a compromise in this situation? One thing I did not mention is that we share a child together, so a clean break is, unfortunately, not possible. TLDR, boyfriend has disrespectful female friend. I, in a sense though not directly, asked him to cut it off, which he said he did, but he instead lied and continued friendship behind my back. I don't know where to go from here. Now for the top comments. I'm frustrated at you. You keep defending him for indefensible actions. He's not a good man, because she's crossed several boundaries and chooses to accommodate her feelings rather than yours. He's not a good father if he's spending time with someone who has admitted to trying to break up his family. He's not a good provider if you're not feeling secure and protected in this relationship. This isn't about him, this is about you. He's told you what he's going to do. He's not going to give her up, regardless of what she's done. Rather than talk to you about your issues, he runs to her. Likely because she's stroking his ego, and it's titillating to him to have a woman want him. And you're still waiting for him to come home to you. What motivation does he have to be faithful, or hell, even respectful, when he knows you're going to hope he changes? You need to decide your boundaries instead of trying to get him to establish his own when he doesn't want to. At what point are you going to dump a disrespectful, lying, likely cheating, manipulative man because you're afraid? He's not your best friend anymore, and he hasn't been for a long time. What would you tell a friend who was in your position? Would you tell her to stay, that it might get better? Hell no, you tell her to go, that he's a no-good dog who doesn't deserve her. And he doesn't deserve you. Next comment. This is wild. Honestly, the fact he lied and went around your back after she has fully admitted trying to sleep with him is enough of a deal-breaker in of itself. It makes sense to be jealous in this situation, even if you trust your partner, because he's just letting this behavior happen. Has he shut her down? Because it really doesn't sound like he has, at all. He has seemingly no boundaries with this woman and her behavior and is acting like you're being crazy for it. Has he done anything like this before, discounting your feelings or sneaking around? Honestly, the lying part is a huge issue. You guys need to seek counseling for this if it's gonna move forward. This woman is being very disrespectful of you and your relationship, and if he either doesn't see that, or finds that acceptable, that needs to get figured out. And him cutting you out of the information, after it seems he's been quite communicative thus far since you know what they've previously talked about, is a big red flag. I really don't have a ton of advice, but do know that it isn't crazy of you to tell him not to be friends with this one person. If you were being that way with every friend, that's a problem, but one who's being like this? Absolutely not. If he tries playing that poor me victim game of you never let me talk to friends thing, assuming you're telling the truth that this is the only time, he's being a manipulative little ass. Next comment. I'm not necessarily feeling jealous, I'm feeling unprotected, if that makes sense. She really doesn't have anything for me to be jealous of. I think he genuinely feels, at least by what he tells me, that no lines were crossed and I'm making something out of nothing. I told him as the one who was disrespected in this instance, I feel my feelings should take precedence. I asked him to put his friend hat on, which is something we do, and try to give me as unbiased an opinion as possible. My friend hat reflection to him was, if I were on the outside looking in and you came to me as a friend, I'd ask you to consider what your girlfriend is telling you and consider her feelings and why you think she feels this way. I'd tell you that I understand your feeling of not being controlled and I realize that it's a potentially slippery slope should you truly choose to end the friendship, and that I understand your reluctance to concede. I'd ask you if you feel your girlfriend has ever tried to control you, or if she's ever tried to tell you you can or can't do something, and establish if this is a pattern of behavior or is this an isolated incident. If it's isolated, I'd ask you to consider if you really think she's trying to control you here, or if her feelings have any validity and merit, and if there is merit, I'd ask you to consider if perhaps your ego is in the way and you just can't or don't want to see it because of the control factor. If it's a pattern and she seems controlling, I'd ask you why you want to continue a relationship with her anyway. I'd also ask if you feel like your girlfriend would do what she is asking from you were the roles reversed. I'd probably ask how deep this friendship is and who do you think would have your back if the chips were down and you had nothing to offer either one. Would either of them be there for you? Neither? Finally, I'd probably ask you to decide at the end of the day what's worth more to you, maintaining control and losing your girlfriend over something she feels strongly over, or letting go of a friendship with someone who quite possibly doesn't have your best interest at heart based on their actions that led to this point, and instead work on building your relationship with your girlfriend. He said he's drinking at the moment and would read and respond once he has his brain back. The response likely won't come until tomorrow. Next comment. I would break up with him, to be honest. Age difference aside, her obsession with him is extremely creepy, and the fact that he did not dial back the friendship when she flirted with him in front of you is bad enough. He should have ended the friendship when she propositioned him. Him lying to you is inexcusable. If you are insecure, it's because you have good reason to be. This woman does not view your boyfriend as a friend, she views him as sexual partner with an extra barrier, i.e., you. Your boyfriend's unwillingness to establish reasonable boundaries and respect for you leads me to suspect that he's either currently sleeping with her, or has been for some time. I would not be surprised if they started sleeping together after she propositioned him. Normally, it's unhealthy for partners to dictate who their partners are friends with, but this is not a normal circumstance. Anyone else in your position would be feeling the way you are, so you're not at all out of line, your feelings are totally reasonable. And your boyfriend is being a major asshole. You've given him enough chances already. Next comment. See, the funny, meaning sad, thing here is that you set very clear boundaries, reasonable, logical ones you have every right to set. You said I acknowledge your right to associate with who you will, and I assert my right to do the same, so let me know what you choose so I can stay or leave. That is perfect. A lot of male, sorry but true, partners in this subs have hated this since time immemorial, but it is true, you do not have to stay. You can set any rule you like, and partners do not have to agree, but as humans who rely on each other, we owe each other the truth about our intent to keep those rules. So, when he lied, he denied you the truth to make an informed decision. Let us be clear, he controlled what you know in order to control your decision-making to benefit solely himself. I am amazed you're efficient rather than enraged. You should be very proud of yourself. But damn, his nerve to call you controlling for having boundaries is annoying. If we never see him again, I didn't see a thing or hear of any suspicious life insurance policies, no siree.